Faith. Today's mini lecture will be about faith. Just the word faith alone can give people goosebumps and make their hair stand on end, and I don't even know what else. And what goes through their mind is, oh, that's about going to church and praying, and with faith you must do this and you mustn't do that. I think that human development has gone through many religions and many beliefs. We've always believed in something. There were either forest gods or air gods or earth gods. We've always had some kind of god or some kind of saint or some kind of order in our minds that we believed in, and often very blindly. I've been thinking about this for a really long time, ever since I was young. What should we actually believe in? I think that every human order and system is based on faith. And it doesn't necessarily have to be religious faith. I myself grew up during the communist era when people believed that only communist ideology and its religion were the best in the world, that everyone had to be equal, and that capitalists were evil people who just wanted to rip everyone off for their money. And today, maybe they weren't wrong, right? But I think that any belief can slip into blind faith. And under communism, I think it was very blind and we lived without freedom. We couldn't travel. Paradoxically, though, people probably developed spiritually more than they do today, in this superficial era where it's all about money and living well without any deeper reflection. But faith itself isn't just about the social system. Nowadays, we believe in the market system, we believe in money. We believe so blindly that none of us even considers that this could one day come to an end. And you can bet that one day it will end. Every order, every system is replaced by another in a certain period. Simply put, when people's faith starts to falter, when we no longer believe in the communists as much, the regime loses its power. Those bigwigs no longer have power, and it dissipates like steam over a pot. In the same way, faith in capital markets, in finance, in the material prosperity that currently exists here, can also evaporate, just like steam over a pot. From one day to the next, we could wake up and find ourselves in a different system, but all of this comes down to faith. When we believe in something, we have a certain sense of purpose in life. We have something ahead of us, some vision that excites us. And that faith, which accompanies us every day, can also relate to things like relationships. I have a friend who's sitting right here next to me, who for years has believed and still believes that he can change his partner to fit his own image, and that then she'll be the perfect woman with whom he'll be happy for the rest of his life. Do you think he's managed to do it so far? Do you think it's possible to change someone just because we believe we can? You can't force someone into something like that. That's what the communists tried to do to us, and they didn't succeed. Now it's money trying to force us, and I don't think that's going to work either, so that we become obedient sheep who just make money, pay up, and don't complain. And then we'll all be happy. The moment our faith, whether personal or social, starts turning into blind faith, where we can't look left or right, aren't allowed to ask questions, and have to keep our mouths shut and just follow along, that's when that faith begins to dissolve, though it takes some time. So in real life, we might have faith in our partner, believing we can change her. And the years slip through our fingers and we keep suffering because the partner refuses to change. We're constantly unhappy and want to help her and change her. But we don't succeed. How do you think a relationship like that is going to end? That's the question, isn't it? Some people spend their whole lives suffering like this, blindly believing in something their entire life. I can say that throughout my life, I've encountered various forms of faith where people believed in all sorts of things. A classic example would be various religious groups or sects, where people believe in something, and I can say that for me, any religious group or sect was personally something dangerous, something I wouldn't want to get involved in. When there are things you must do and things you must not do. When I have these kinds of boundaries of faith, I can say, for example, that I had a friend who was a Christian priest, and I wanted to have a conversation, a discussion with him, but the moment I touched on topics that you are not allowed to question, he became almost aggressive, and his answer was very simple. You just have to believe. I said, wait, what do you mean you have to? I don't have to believe. I want logical answers as to why things are this way and that way. Don't ask about that. That's just how it is. You won't understand this, you have to. Or on the other hand, you're not allowed to. Our faith tends to very often slip into a certain kind of blindness, where we don't want freedom, perspective, or to learn new things, where basically we just want to get our own way and believe blindly. So these sects and religions often kept us in check through a certain kind of fear, telling us, don't do this or you'll go to hell. Well, today we obviously laugh about it, but now we have many new faiths and many new religions. Even the pursuit of money is a kind of religion, a kind of faith. If we didn't believe in money, then who would work? Who would chase after money? Who would commit fraud? Who would embezzle banks? Who would go into politics? No one would go there, right? If it wasn't about money. That's what today's world reeks of. This belief, which trusts in human selfishness and in the idea that a person can take advantage of others without any fear. We'll see if it pays off for people when they choose this path. This selfish belief, there are many different beliefs like this. But I can say one thing. You can't live without faith. Faith is something that gives us zest for life, meaning joy, happiness, but of course also great disappointment. When you have little kids like I do, suddenly you have a purpose in life because you believe that those children will become something. I believe that we love each other and I start to form my own idea, my own faith in those children. It works similarly in a partnership. Parental love from another angle, from the children's perspective, looks similar. Some children believe that their dad or mom are perfect and would never say or do anything wrong in their lives. Then they get divorced, right? So then for the child, that whole faith in the godlike status of their parents dissolves and we end up in quite a mess. I have a friend who's standing here behind the camera and he also believed that his dad was the embodiment of goodness, that he was a great, amazing person. And who wouldn't love their dad? We all do, that's normal. And suddenly his dad was ordering Viagra and had all sorts of things going on that he himself didn't want to believe. Suddenly this friend's faith, his faith in his father, started to crumble until he found out that his dad had gotten a girlfriend 30 years younger, is now expecting a second child, got divorced, and just did such crazy things that no one would believe it, least of all himself. And I think it really troubled him a lot. The moment we fall into the blindness of faith, when we believe and want to have people around us, partners, or the political system, or I don't know, the economy, or we believe that our job is the only thing keeping us afloat and that the job will always work out. When our faith causes us trouble and lets us down, I can say those are the deepest depressions a person can experience because you simply can't live without faith. We believe in a partner and they let us down. We believe in our job and it lets us down. We believe in money and that can let us down too. We believe in politics and that can also lead us to disappointment. We believe in God and even that can let us down. There are so many beliefs that we create for ourselves. And every belief can lead us to one thing. So that we don't believe blindly. So that we find a certain perspective, so we don't dive into blind faith when we're deaf, blind, and can't see, and just keep repeating the same things over and over. It's a tough job because it touches on one thing. We humans have some kind of inner impulse that tells us to believe. You can't live without faith. But the system we currently live in tells us from the outside, don't trust anyone, they're all bastards, everyone will screw you over. Don't trust anyone, only yourself. But it doesn't work that way. Everyone has a tendency to believe, and that's probably why con artists and politicians have such an easy time with crowds of people. Because we try and want to believe, and believing only in yourself. That's a huge challenge, and it takes a lot of spiritual effort. That means we have to start working on ourselves, because how can we trust someone we don't know at all? Will we immediately trust someone from the outside? Someone we don't know just because they sweet talk us? They promise us the moon and the stars? That's easy to believe. But try believing in yourself when you don't even know who you are. I've experienced this myself, and I can say that people would rather trust someone else who takes responsibility for them than trust themselves. Because if I trust myself, I should get to know myself. I should take responsibility for myself and for my actions. And these days, who actually wants that? That's a hassle. It's just hard work and disappointment. When a person looks deeper or looks inside themselves, it's often a really unpleasant sight because none of us are perfect, but that's normal. Faith can bring us disappointment, meaning that the system we believed in so much can fall apart for us. And a lot of people can't handle that. They don't even want to live. These depressions are often very severe, and then people might start drinking, taking drugs or pills, as I call them. Those are antidepressants, which nowadays almost everyone takes. But the reason why someone gets so entangled in these unpleasant, destructive, depressive states is often actually right on the surface. And that is faith. You can't live without faith. But how do you find faith in life? And what should you believe in? That's a question every person faces. Because every person has freedom and can find their own faith. I have no right to force anyone into any kind of faith. I can only say what I believe in. I believe that growth and destiny are amazing things. And when I look back on my life, I wouldn't change a thing. Because every mistake, every mess up brought me to the point where I am now. So I'm grateful for what I set up for myself in my destiny, for everything that happened. And I believe, and now this is about my own personal faith, I believe that if I've set up my destiny to be this interesting so far, then I trust that what's ahead, the things I don't know yet, will be just as interesting, just as enriching, and just as much of a learning experience. Because I see life as one big study, one big learning process. I'm not a genius. You keep learning, studying every day, and I enjoy that. I believe that life has meaning, specifically in the fact that we can discover many new things about ourselves, that we can keep moving forward in understanding ourselves, and through that we can find inner peace and joy in life. Joy from believing in life itself. And as a result, one can avoid many blind beliefs that can excite us with a destructive kind of happiness. And in the end, that destruction falls back on us. Faith is an ordinary thing. You believe that in the morning you'll buy bread rolls with your money. But we also believe that if I go looking for stones, I'll find some. Otherwise, I wouldn't go there. If I knew I wouldn't find any rocks in the field, say if I was looking for citrines, then I wouldn't go. I believe I'll find one, and that fills me with joy and happiness. And when I do find one, I'm happy. When I don't find one, I'm pissed off. All of this is caused by faith. Faith makes our emotions go up and down. And each of us chooses the kind of faith that suits us, the one that's most important and fruitful for our life. We often step in shit, we often step into a kind of faith that's a disaster for us, but if we didn't step into that disaster, we wouldn't even know what a disaster is and we wouldn't be able to navigate life. So I wish everyone the best. May each of you find your own faith and test that faith with your own logic and also with your own heart.